the what I think was the response and recovery activities that your company has sort of been dragged into, because of our pandemic. Um, I have been engaged the last 6, 7 months. Um, back, I don't, Frank, John, help me here. Um, if you folks are working on recovery activities, I may be able to supply I, leads, resources. I know I was always sending stuff along, and I can do that again. But not being on the board and not being a board member, I'm very sensitive of not wanting to behave inappropriately.
Gene, so much. John, yeah, I see you.
June, please don't feel that you would be acting inappropriately to provide us with information and links that you feel might be useful. We are all struggling to find those, and so we would appreciate the help that you would provide. You were very good at that when you were on the board, and we do miss that. And so if you can, if you see an opportunity, please pass the information on.
You got it.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, June, I think that's really important, and your background and experience really does help, particularly with state agencies. So far, everything we've been working on has been within existing grant opportunities, but we want to really be careful to position Perry County to be ready when the COVID-oriented funding comes to pass, should it come to pass. And I see Stephanie, could you just wave your hand as if you might want to say something? No, she's nodding her head no. But trust that our team and June, we really do like this. We treat this teamwork thing, it's not just us on our end, it's everybody on this call. So, if y'all find out about something, we definitely want to keep the lines of communication open. And then the other thing is we are in regular contact with the grant writer for Perry County. And so that's something we'll certainly, keep going as we move along. Again, I'm going to kind of wrap up and kick it over to Ben. I will say that, the team's going to keep going. We still have some things we're trying to figure out. We definitely want to try and get back with Duncannon and with New Bloomfield, because we haven't done any follow-up from our initial visit like we did in Newport and Millerstown. So, and then there's also been work done in Newport, Millerstown that has never been presented. So we need to follow up with both of those communities as well. So with that, I'll kind of pause, see if there are any questions, and then we'll kick it over to Ben to talk a little bit about what, he's seeing right now as well. Any questions? Okay. Well, Ben, it's about 7:30. Why don't you jump right in?
Absolutely. So I'm guessing, let me just double check. Are y'all seeing that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I want to do is I just want to run through and share with you a couple of the trends, a couple of things to be thinking about. This is both from an organizational standpoint and from a business standpoint. We are going to record this presentation, and we will be able to share that link with you all. So if you do have any issues with the audio coming through, or folks that weren't able to join us tonight, we will be able to share that with them. But I would like to run through this very quickly with you all, share some of the ideas and things that we've seen, and then we'll definitely have a little bit of time right at the end for some questions and answers if anything comes up. I'm going to try to cover this in 6 main topics tonight. The changing roles of Main Street, both from a downtown and also kind of an organizational support. As you know, during this plan, one of the big things that we have been able to do is lean on the Pennsylvania Downtown Center, and have a team member from the center who is integral in recommending a non-traditional organizational model with a Perry County type county-wide Main Street structure. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Talking about what will promotion be, what will events look like in post-COVID, the technology gap that we've picked up on, economic reinvention, redesigning design, and then lasting impacts. So let's start with the changing roles of Main Street. As many of you know, one of the big things that has come out of this is we have seen a huge need for this role of what we call the community therapist. We have so many people who are passionately involved in their communities, whether they are organizational members, whether they are business owners, investors, who have really just had a very, very hard time. And being able to create avenues for discussion and support has really been something that we have seen come out of this. We've got a great example in downtown Lansing, Michigan, where what they did is they started what they call the Downtown Business Huddle. And literally they just do a quick Zoom call. It lasts about, they have a kind of funny goal to make it last 18 minutes or less every Monday morning. And they have 18 blocks in their district, so that was kind of what they were focusing in on. But just giving the business owners an opportunity to get their heads together, talk a little bit about their challenges. One of the other things that we're seeing is the role of community advocate. So many times we have kind of this hesitation in talking too much about private business. Even with our economic development entities, there's a hesitation to promote private sector businesses. We've seen a lot of those hesitations go away, and the role of community advocates really be a pretty important spotlight to be shown on your community, highlighting the changes that businesses might be making and the adaptations that they're exploring with their business models. And also kind of sharing tools that help to create safe shopping environments. One of the big things that we've dealt with is environmental graphics. We've designed a whole lot of safe distance, social distancing decals and things like that. So any way that you can create the toolkits that allow your businesses to operate in a manner that makes both them and their customers safe, that is always a good opportunity to explore. And then one of the biggest things that has happened is these downtown and economic development organizations that are focused on revitalization and kind of reinvestment in your community, they are truly starting to be seen as true economic support. For a long time, it was always about landing the big industry. It was that industrial recruitment mindset. And with everything that we've seen with the PPP program, the streamlining of SBA loan programs, we have seen a true shift in the role that small business plays in the economy in America, and the spotlight that those organizations that support small businesses receive. So all of that is actually very, very exciting for Perry County. One of the things that we are seeing from a trend standpoint is we are forecasting a 15 to 20% decrease nationally in office demand. There are going to be a lot of employees that are not going to be going back into the office. Telecommuting has proven not only to work, but in many circumstances be more productive at a lower price point for businesses. So with that, we might have more employees in our communities during the day. We might have a different interaction. Communities that were one time considered bedroom communities now are going to be Zoom room communities, where people are going to be in the community working during the day and have the opportunity to make economic impact. So that all looks very, very good for a county like Perry, close in proximity to metro areas, but you have been practicing the art of social distance for decades. So, you know, I think that we're seeing a giant kind of refocus on communities that have maintained a little more of that rural aspect. One of the other big things that we've seen is just the importance in being able to communicate the basic fundamentals of business. When your businesses are open, what hours they have, and so many times practices that became invisible, making them visible again. And I'll hit on that again in a second. Being able to make those invitations and also being able to tell people that it is okay to set your own rules. Unfortunately, I think we all realize that safety has become a bit politicized, but it is always important to remind business owners that they have the right to be able to create a safe environment and understand that customers are going to have their own comfort level with certain kinds of interactions. Now, from there, we talk a little bit about promotions and events. We've seen all kinds of very, very interesting dynamics. We've seen the need for people to get outside and to congregate, but also practice safe social distancing. This is an example of a concert in a park. They actually went through and they created these socially distanced kind of knobs or you know, modules, circles that you can exist in and kind of know that you're safely 6 feet apart from everybody else. And things like this have been very, very popular, where you blend that visibility with the ability to get out, stretch your legs. We've started to see some interesting dynamics, things like food trucks, where we used to have food truck festivals and a bunch of food trucks would come together. Now we're seeing communities go out, allow neighborhoods to request food trucks to come and park on their street and literally take advantage of the mobility of the food truck and take different flavors to your different communities and really take advantage of that opportunity for variety. We're seeing some kind of fun and trendy things. These are some safe tables that they created where people could maintain 6 feet and still, you know, drink their alcohol on the boardwalk and look at the beach and congregate. We're seeing different businesses explore with things like virtual date nights. We've got a great business down in Greenville, South Carolina called Community Tap, where you can go in and you can reserve a package and they will actually pair wine and chocolate and cheese. You go by and you pick it up and then you hop on a Zoom call for a curated date night at home. So you're starting to see a lot of creativity that is coming into the ways that businesses can evolve and adapt. There's some plans that have started to come out from Virgin in London, where they're trying to design a socially spaced concert venue where very small groups actually get their own box deck, and creating these opportunities to maybe change the price structure a little, but still take advantage of outdoor events and take advantage of live performances. We've also seen a dramatic change in the way that communities talk about themselves, the way that our downtowns and our individual stories have changed. And we've had to really talk about both safety and a focus on business viability, which is so very important to find that balance. And this is a great example that we found from it's a storefront in Boston. And what they actually did is they took 2 LCD screens and then hung these scarves and installed fans behind them. And it's kind of just a truly intriguing experience when you look at it. It's captivating. And we're finding these opportunities for, it's almost the non-event, those just captivating moments that connect you with a place without having to be in the middle of a festival. From there, we jump over to the technology gap. Again, want to hit on this really quickly. One of the things that blew my mind was with our downtown businesses across America, the National Main Street America, the National Main Street Center conducted a survey. They had about 3,500 businesses from across the country respond. 2 out of every 3 businesses that were proactive enough to respond had no way to make money online. 2 out of 3. So when stores started to see these forced closures, started to see changes in their occupancy, then automatically that impacted their revenue. We've seen a huge shift in focus on the creation of online stores. One of my good friends who owns kind of a vintage antique store, immediately upon closing, they hunkered down and built an online store. It took them about 4 days to photograph items and get things up. They started to see immediate revenue come back in. And this has been a huge supplemental income while they were closed. And they absolutely plan to keep this secondary revenue stream open as they continue forward. Trip and I's middle brother, Chris, worked with the Made in Virginia store down in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And what they began to do was cluster their product into gift baskets. As people were trapped in their homes, they found that sending gift baskets back and forth was a great way to feel connected to one another, B, a great way for the business to move their inventory. They literally sold thousands of dollars of these gift baskets. And then also utilizing your social media to help keep people up to date with their hours. This is a business called My Sister's Fault. It's a bakery and restaurant in my town of Milford, Delaware. They did a couple really amazing things. First of all, they tried to stay open as long as they could. Things started to get a little hairy. They decided to do a 2-week closure to get their arms wrapped around everything that was going on. During the 2 weeks, they launched a bakery video series live through Facebook, and they would have people enter a raffle. And at the end of the week, they raffled off everything that they baked that week. And all of the revenue from the raffle went to keep all of their employees paid for the week. So it was a great way to both close while also taking care of your staff. And then that led them to launch a Facebook-based online ordering system. So you can literally order your food online directly through Facebook with them. And they have seen they've seen double-digit revenue growth once they added the online order opportunity. We're seeing evolving social. People are spending more time online and they're learning more about different mediums. I know that TikTok has become very popular with Trip. I'm just kidding. The younger folks are very much taking advantage of TikTok, and then they're saying that people my age, the Gen X, are getting on there and ruining it, as we often do. But we've seen really amazing communication that's come out through Facebook, through Instagram, just keeping people up to date and also sharing the personal and human side of these business owners. This is a post from an owner of Magpie Designs in Gillette, Wyoming, and just showing a picture of her and her daughter in the store opening new products as they're getting ready to reopen after closure. These are 2 business owners kind of being able to invite people back in while showing that they are practicing mask wearing in their store. And then the other thing that is really, really interesting is we have seen this refocus on social media to share safety standards, things that have become invisible before need to reemerge as being very visible. How often do you wipe down menus? How often are you cleaning the doorknobs? Those kind of things that were kind of under the radar, you actually want to accentuate those safety practices. We've seen a tremendous number of hand sanitizer stations be installed both in stores and on street fronts. I actually believe that we will see hand sanitizer stations become part of the public infrastructure on streetscapes for quite a few years to come. We're even seeing things like hand washing stations that are simply powered off of a garden hose extension being placed around downtown districts like St. Petersburg. And then also, of course, the adoption of safe technology. Everything from the ability to open doors without touching them with your hands to the contactless payment, things like Apple Pay and contactless payment with Square. We have seen contactless transactions nearly double in 2020. So anytime you can cut down on the transfer, that personal physical transfer, we're seeing businesses lean towards adopting those. Now, from here, we're also seeing some very interesting trends in the world of economic reinvention. One is being able to reinvent the way that we help businesses to survive. If you've heard Randy Wilson speak, he often talks about vibrancy grants. Vibrancy grants are small micro grants to businesses to add color and life to communities. We have started to see those adapt to safety and safe, vibrant structures. So micro dining, we've seen domes, we've seen clear, dining domes, we've seen all different models to bring in kind of creative and design-oriented solutions to still have people interact with their community while also taking advantage of safe practices. You see an example in the top right of what's called a parklet, where they actually take a parallel parking space and they turn it into outdoor dining, giving you extra space, extra square footages for your businesses to succeed. We're seeing big shifts in building ownership. As I mentioned before, we have seen a potential huge loss in office tenants, and we are seeing a potential for a gigantic commercial mortgage bust, similar to the residential mortgage collapse. That being said, what we are seeing is we are seeing a trend where buildings are now coming on sale with a recalibrated worth based off of the market they exist in, a recalibration to the number of people that can safely get through a business. All of those things are now affecting the potential as we start to see office tenants go vacant. It is going to again bump value down and open up ownership once again to people that maybe are those first floor tenants. One of the biggest trends that we've seen is we've seen building owners condoing out their first floor retail space and trying to create a way that those businesses can actually own the ground floor and get in there and be truly vested in their space. One of the other trends that's pretty exciting is we're seeing some different lease structures. One of the ones that seems to have reemerged the strongest is the idea of a percentage lease, where the lease that you pay the landlord is directly tied to your revenue. And what that does is that makes your landlord a true partner. It makes them vested in your success, and it helps them to understand the value of the property based off of the actual market and revenue potential. We're also seeing very, very ramped up business development processes. We're seeing businesses go from idea to open much quicker. The combination of financial support, the obvious need for new business, and the vacancy in communities, we're seeing some real momentum there. And we want to make sure as organizations that we are there to support that growth. Two more sections. We'll go in super quick. Redesign, design. Seeing a lot of new things that have come out. We talked a little bit about parklets already. Some great examples. We've been talking about parklets for years. Now they really have a true purpose. We're also seeing things like pedestrian circulation. We're starting to look a lot more at building space and making sure that every single community isn't designed solely for the car. We're making sure that communities allow their businesses to spill out onto their sidewalks. We've seen great examples from communities all across the country where they have understood that because of social distancing standards, if you allow business owners to take advantage of their sidewalk space, you have increased their square footage for free. And you're allowing them to create a model that allows them to succeed while still maintaining safe distances. And as you start to think about using that outdoor space to help make the model work, you also have to consider outdoor climate protection. Things like mist fans during the hot summers or outdoor heaters during the winter. And then, of course, one of our biggest trends has been the growth in both curbside pickup and delivery models. Many communities have started to organize localized delivery options so that every single business in the district can share in a single delivery infrastructure to be able to get product to customers and maintain a high degree of safety precautions and policy. And then those lasting impacts. I think that social distancing is going to be around with us for a while. We have seen quite a few folks out there that have done kind of humorous ways to convey how you maintain social distance. What better from the state of Iowa than using livestock and tractors to help set appropriate boundaries? We're starting to see a lot of businesses that have integrated safe spacing into their model. This is Twisted Barley Brewing, where they used kegs to space out bar seats. We've even seen really interesting models like safe distance pillows that can be bought by restaurants and take up seats with these pillows so that you have appropriate spacing. This is downtown dining domes where you can go through and have these different domes and groups that are kind of congregated in a little bit more closed space. And of course, all of our different ways to communicate the social distancing policies in a community. Couple interesting things that are a little off the wall. We've seen communities exploring all kinds of tactics that relate to alcohol, things like open container districts, beverages to go, and even cocktail delivery. And then one of the biggest trends leading into the first quarter of 2020 was the growth in food halls and co-working spaces and this kind of refocus on achieving more dense places. And then you get hit with a global pandemic that's trying to force distance and less density. So what we're actually seeing is we're seeing some of these models have figured out how to quickly pivot. There's a great example of a food hall, and if you're not familiar with a food hall, it's kind of a shared dining room with multiple kitchens. So you can have a lot of different restaurants that share a single communal dining hall. We've seen examples of these all over the country that have quickly turned into what we call ghost kitchens. So again, they become online order, take home and bake, and then all of that space that would have once been communal dining turns into facilitated delivery service and being able to set up a extremely efficient curbside pickup and direct to the consumer delivery system. So with that, I know that was super quick, but I wanted to hit on a bunch of that stuff, but I want to open it up. I think we've got about 8 or 9 minutes before we hit our hour mark. If anybody does have any questions that I didn't get hit on or didn't get to cover, or anything that kind of spurred an idea, feel free to hit those my way, and I'll see if I can answer them. And if not, Tripp can probably answer them.
And what I'll do, I just want to add just a couple of quick comments on how this relates to Perry County. Is you're out commuting as you all know, is tremendous. We really do believe that the work from home option that's probably going to be with us for quite some time now is going to behoove Perry County in ways that you may not have ever thought. And then second, the nesting that we're going to see and the lack of willingness to go to a crowded Olive Garden somewhere, 35 minutes away, that people are going to be more inclined to eat locally, to stay local, and to work with local businesses that are treating people creatively. And these solutions that we see happening nationally, we think play extremely well with the character, the personality, the existing business mix, and the potential growth of business in Perry County. And so everything Ben's talking about, it may seem a little, well, the domes to me in particular, a little out there. But many of those things we really do feel like are very practical and applicable to your economic success. And we're certainly going to be mindful of those as we move ahead.
I'd like to compliment Ben and Tripp for a really very sound, exciting, engaging presentation. I feel effervescent, if that's possible in the day and time, for the reasons that you just cited, Tripp. Everything is changing. We are in a social revolution, whether we want it or not. But your work with the EDA has helped position Perry County to bloom on its own terms in ways that we could only have dreamed of not that long ago. And it is a time for boldness and creativity. And I think we've never had the receptive audience. It's a very exciting time.
Couldn't agree more, Gene. I think it's very easy to get stuck in the in all the negativity as a market analyst and as a planner, and having the team that we have with you and with our colleagues, Stephanie, Ben, and Randy, and Tom that you'll hear from. Y'all, I think look, this has been a horrible year, but if anything, I think Perry County is positioned to really capitalize on the opportunities that this calamity has presented.
I do believe it's an opportunity of a generation for this county. We are, most of us leave the county to work. They're not now. Many are working from home. Those with the most disposable income are working from home. That creates a demand for like Grubhub, ordering out. We've had the cafe in New Bloomfield. There's a lot of stuff bubbling, and I've had to step away from EDA, so maybe we should listen to Frank and John.
I'll just mention that there has been some discussion about working with the various businesses in the county to help them find a way to do more online. Working with them to set up their web pages and that type of thing. I know there was some discussion. I don't know how far that has gotten, but that was, that in response to Ben's, part there, it was some area that where we could be of, immediate help to some of these businesses. The other thing, is a very valid point, is that, as we pointed out, the ability for the county to attract, like we heard in Millerstown, where people were moving to Millerstown because they wanted their family to grow up in an area that where they felt a little more open and freedom, not living quite so in fear. And I think that is where we have the ability to capitalize in the long run to, as we've said, bring those people that are, able to work from home. But it is a difficult situation in that we do not have the best broadband service. And so that is something that I know the commissioners are taking a hard look at, and how they can begin to spur the development of better broadband service, in the county. So I think that we are benefiting from a set of commissioners who are very much interested in advancing the county, and are looking for those ideas that they can then work with, and groups to work with to advance that. So Frank is the one with his ear to the ground much more than I. So I would turn over to him.
Well, I think, like it's been said, I think it's, we're at a point where we can really capitalize and, do some positive things out of a very negative situation. Like John said, the broadband is a bit of an issue, but there is concerted effort, to improve that situation. And, it's always been said about thinking outside the box, but maybe sometimes we need to think inside the box or inside the circle a little bit now, with the social distancing and all that. But, I really appreciate the team's efforts, helping poise us to, be ready to move forward in this situation.
I just want to mention something as a school, as an educator and